Hi everyone, this is Selena Kraus and welcome to another card video. In this video, we're gonna do some mass producing of pretty simple but yet very fun cards using the new Daydream Designs release. And for this set of cards, I'm using the So Happy Sentiment stamp set. So here's the set. It comes with coordinating dies for the little flowers, which I don't have right now, as well as the Happy ×3 die set that comes with 3 dies that you can layer that happy sentiment and have more dimensional look to it. So let's get started. I followed the pre-cut white cardstock panels measuring 4 by 5 1/4, and they're pre-cut from Daydream Designs premium white cardstock. So to start, I'm positioning those background flowers where I want to be, and I'm using I already pre-cut those happy sentiment just to make sure that kind of to plan that background. So I'm picking those flowers, flower stems with the door of my MISTI, and I'm stamping one of the flowers. I'm just applying ink to the largest flowers, and I'm using the pink champagne. So I'm gonna stamp at once all the panels using that stamp. As you notice, the other 2 stamps, they're on the door of the MISTI, however, I'm not inking them up. We'll do that later after we're done with this larger just flower. So next I'm removing that largest flower and I'm gonna go with the smaller flower, and I'm using the orange peel ink, and I'm stamping all those small flowers. So I'm gonna stamp all 5. I started with 5, but you can do as many as you like. Once you have everything positioned in your MISTI, everything is pretty quick and simple. So next I'm removing that flower, and I have only 1 flower left on the door of my MISTI, and the medium-sized flower, and I'm using the hot tub ink pad to stamp that one. So I'm just gonna put all those panels in my MISTI. You can do a few at a time. Just don't do more because it will interfere with the door, depending how many papers, how many layers you have in your MISTI. I found that 3 to 4 work the best. So we have everything, those large background flowers, they're all stamped. Next we'll do the layers for the center. And I'm going to use Sangria, Daydream, and Mandarin Spice. It's a little bit darker shades of the colors I already used. So to go quicker, I decided for those to just use my acrylic block, because those are smaller stamps. So just position everything, and I stamp the center for the larger flower. Then I'm going with Mandarin Spice. I'm doing the same for the smallest flower. And then I'll be using Daydream for the last one. So now that we have all the centers, we have the leaves. Since I have only 1 stamp and I wanted multiple leaves, I decided again to use the acrylic block for the leaves because I'm gonna stamp 5 leaves on each panel. 2 around the smallest and the largest flower, and 1 on the side of the medium-sized flower. And I'm just positioning to see how that looks, and it looks pretty good. So I'm going to continue to stamp those leaves. So while I was stamping, the magnet of my MISTI made an impression with orange ink onto one of my card panels, and towards the end of the video you will see how I fixed that one by stamping one of the larger flowers on top of it, and still the card looks pretty good, in my opinion, at least. Also, it masked that little orange mark onto my white panel. So now that we're done with the leaves, I'm going to stamp the little heart that comes in the stamp set. So I'm using again pink champagne. I'm stamping 3 little hearts around that happy sentiment. Now that I know where I want them to go, I remove that happy sentiment. I put it on the side, and I'm just stamping those little hearts on the background. So we have 1 more left. Okay, next I'm looking at how that happy looks like, and we're gonna add a stamp sentiment. I decided to use it says today let's make it happy, or once it's stamped. Right now I can't think what the sentiment said, but once we stamp it, it's today let's just be happy. So it's pretty happy sentiment, and it's pretty kind of, you can use it for everyday cards, and if you want to send a bunch of cards to friends to encourage them, I think this is a perfect sentiment. So now that we have everything stamped, we're just gonna adhere that happy sentiment. But before that, as I mentioned earlier, I had an orange pill mark on one of the card on one of the panels. So here I'm stamping that large flower using pink champagne. I'm gonna add the center using Sangria ink, and then I'm gonna add another 2 leaves around it using the green tea ink. So over there I didn't stamp evenly, so I decided to kind of use the acrylic block to stamp that leaf again. My head interfered with it because I was trying to look at it closely to make sure I line up the stamped image with the one that I was stamping over it. So next I'm applying some liquid adhesive on the back of the happy die cuts. I'm just gonna adhere on each panel. Once done, if you have a little bit of that H and Y sticking on the ends, just use your paper snips to trim it off. So I'm just adding all those happy sentiments to make sure that it's adhered nicely. I've used a large acrylic block on top to make sure it dries flat. Next I'm using, while those are drying, I'm using the Catherine Puller 5.5 by 8.5 premium white cardstock. They're all scored in half. They're pre-scored in half, so I'm just folding in half, and I'm using my bone folder to give them nice and crisp crease. So once those are done, I decided to add a little bit more dimension to the card, and I'm using fun foam on the back of my stamp panels to adhere them onto my note cards. So I'm just adding first fun foam on the back of each panel, stamp panel, and then I'll use liquid adhesive because it gives me a little bit more flexibility to add it to those panels, to the card bases. I'm sorry. So I'm just adding that liquid adhesive, adhering it, and again I'm using my large acrylic block to make sure that dry flat. So like it's a closer look to the finish of the finished cards. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and also please visit my blog for more inspiration and more ideas. Thanks for watching. Bye.